What's up, brothers and sisters? Your brother G World 7_D at it again. Here's a book by the author I had before, Dr. Rufus Jimerson, When Blacks Ruled Greece and Rome, the West Maritime Civilization Before Ancient Eurasian Conquest. You notice it says Eurasian. That's where a lot of white folks come from, Asia. I want to go turn to page 93. All right, I want you to pick up on certain things and realize certain things. Some things I said before, there's some things, I disagree with certain things, but this is actually a good book. Here we go. Trade, commerce, and wealth occurred from ancient Asia. The first Asians were black. Okay, let me get a better focus. The original Ethiopians, the Berbers, the Copts, the Nubians, the Zaghawa, the Moors, the people of the Sign, the Hindus, the Kumar, the Dalaba, the Chinese, and the islands of the Pacific Ocean and Indian Sea were black. All right. Most of these inhabitants were migrants out of Africa in antiquity. Archaeological evidence points out that the oldest modern man of Asia, dating back to 100,000 years, was characteristically black. Modern man was born in Africa more than 200,000 years ago in the Great Lakes region. I believe it's older than that, but that's fine. Okay, I'm not going to go. But recent research suggests that the date was premature since they have found tools from black Homo sapiens in Libya dating back to 500,000 years ago. Up until the vast Aryan invasion in the 5th century of the Christian era, and Aryan didn't originate with white people, but okay, up until the vast Aryan invasion in the 5th century of the Christian era, black migrants from Africa were the dominant inhabitants of the Palestine to the Philippines. I showed them little black people in the Philippines, including Arabia and China. Asia was predominantly, it was all, populated in antiquity by black people. The first Indians were blacks of Sudanese, Egyptian origin. These migrants initially settled in the Indus Valley between present-day Pakistan and India. They created the first monumental civilizations of Asia, which thrived 2000 BC when Indo-European Aryan tribes began their invasion and precipitated a decline that ended the civilization by 1300 BC. The Indus civilization had a population of over 5 million. Their inhabitants developed new techniques in the metallurgy, copper, bronze, lead, and tin. Remember I talked about metallurgy, how the brothers were smelting iron. Okay. The Indus cities were renowned for their urban planning, baked brick houses, elaborate drainage systems, they had this all over the world, and water supply systems. Independently, the Chinese Empire arose to bring civilization to the eastern heart of Asia. A genetic study of the University of Fudan reveals that it was blacks out of Africa for 100,000 years who populated the south of China. The descendants, the Nakas, are present today in China. Much of the original blacks have been absorbed by the interbreeding with current Mongolian type who came from the north. The original Mongolian features were Negroes anyway, but yeah, paler skinned people start mixing in. They had a lighter skin, so they start mixing in with the Aboriginal blacks there. So when the paler Mongoloid people came here later on to the Americas, they were already mixed. All right. All of the Myanmar, Vietnam, Cambodge, Laos, Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, Indonesia were inhabited by black people. Some departed to go populate Australia 50,000 years ago. Remember the black Australians came out of Asia? They represent those that originated many civilizations in the region, with a system of matrilineal royal succession unique to the black world. You can look at some black Indians who look like black Australians. They too were partly absorbed by the Mongolian element. Further north in the Pacific, blacks became first inhabitants of Japan and the Philippines. They were described as having fuzzy hair and thick lips. Japan was first populated by Africans and before the arrival of the current Mongolians. The Philippines were populated by blacks, pygmies called Ajita. They are present today as Africans in diaspora. I really don't like to use the term African diaspora, but that's fine. I'm making a point. The inhabitants of China were black Africans who arrived there about 100,000 years ago and dominated the region until a few thousand years ago when the Mongol advanced into that region. The Mongol onslaught drove them into Southeast Asia and the Pacific Islands. China's first two dynasties, the Xi and the Shang, were largely black African. These Africans would carry martial arts developed in the Horn of Africa into China. The form of fighting is today called Tai Chi, Kung Fu, and Taekwondo. Around 500 BC, an African living in India called Guatemala established Buddhism, a religion that will come to dominate Chinese thought, which would make Buddha like a pale white dude. Nah, man. The following scholars gave Guatemala credit for establishing this religion. Godfrey Higgins. He has a great 2-volume book, man. I can't name the whole title now, but Albert Churchward, Gerald Massey. And he has Ronoko Shidi and J. Rogers. Blacks reigned over China's Shang dynasty, 1766 to 1027 BC. Tang dynasty, 618 to 907 AD. And the Yuan dynasty, 1271 to 1368 AD. The most famous Chinese sage, Liao Taizi, was described as black in complexion. Apparently, Africans played a pivotal role in starting what is called Chinese civilization. Now, I'm going to get to what we call over ancient India, the Harappan, and then the Mohenjo-Daro. The ancient Indus Valley civilization and its hegemony throughout Asia. The Harappans were a black Muvayan people that lived in the Indus Valley. They were original inhabitants of the Black Rama Empire who migrated out of Africa. The Harappans worshiped Buddha. The Harappans, through their rigid philosophical and scientific cultural structures that gave birth to yoga. The Ayurveda, Eastern School of Medicine, Eastern System of Medicine, and a comprehensive understanding of the functionality of the universe and how it relates to man is conceived. The Buddha figure worshipped by the Harappans and the early inhabitants of Vietnam at the great Mahayana temple at Duong display a flat nose, powerful lips, and curly hair with locks, deity of obvious African features. The Dravidians today are direct descendants of the original inhabitants of the Indus Valley. Okay. Ancient Indian worship of the black ones. The ancient statues of gods in India, particularly before the Aryan invasion, have crisp hair, curled locks, flat noses, and thick lips. These blacks maintain the hegemony in India. All reverers of the Greek metaphysical derived from these black-skinned worshippers of African-looking deities. The books of metaphysical derived by the Greeks are more than 25 centuries old. Black Indians under Krishna, referred to as the Black One, fought hard to maintain the advanced civilization and vast against the marauding hordes of Aryans who completed the invasion by 1000 BC. Men were either killed in battle or forced to do hard labor for their masters, new masters. Women were raped and forced to have babies of their rapists whom they were forced to serve as a concubine slave. The black hegemony over China, Southeast Asia, and the Pacific Islands. The African hegemony stretched east through China into the Southeast and Pacific Islands. The early inhabitants of China and the rest of Asia, including India, were black Africans, reflective of those living in today's sub-Saharan Africa, and diaspora in the United States of America. I don't agree with that term, but okay, that's fine. DNA research done by Jin Lai found stunning similarities between the people of Southeast Asia and Africa. The Chinese are clearly DNA descendants of Africans and the largest African diaspora population globally. The earliest skeletal remains also demonstrate that the Chinese are of a Negroid race. The early emperors of China have distinct black African features. Evidence indicates that black people built the earlier Southeast Asian kingdoms. The building class were called the Khmers, Cambodia, who were described as small and black. And this is an image of either Harappan or Mohenjo-Daro. Okay, this is an image here. And I was a damn Negro, man. Looking at his forehead, like a little eye. You can't really see it. Sort of like a little headband or something on his head. But you can obviously tell this Negro with his beard. This unquestionably is Negro. And then Sri Lanka with the Buddhist deity. Gold looking image. Alright? And obviously a little Negro there. But here goes Angkor Wat. Carved into rock. Remember I talking about how this is carved into rock. Alright? This is carved into rock. So-called black people did this globally. You see this all through Asia, and you see this all through America. When I mentioned the Grand Canyon, when people say it's impossible to have done that, they did this in Asia, you can see it. And these obviously, you can tell these some damn Negroes, man. Now, some people already seen these pictures for the Chinese, but this is Angkor Wat. Alright? I mentioned that before. And it has some similarities to the ancient Americas, too, man. This stuff has a lot of similarities to ancient America. Nigga, Chinese emperors. Alright. I'm gonna keep reading here. There's some more black people in Southeast Asia. Alright. The Shang Dynasty, 1766-1027 BC, was founded by people of black and oily skin. See, they and the Chinese today display a slanted eye trait. This trait originated among West Africans and Bushmen of the Sahara and South Africa. Remember I talking about the Khoisan? One of the greatest Chinese philosophers, Lao Tzu, or Lao Tzu, was described as black in complexion, part of my interpretation. He was revered as a deity in traditional Chinese religion. Even the martial arts originated in Africa. The greatest martial artist of Chinese golden age was a black man. This fighting style was brought to China by African migrants who also gave birth to the country's ancient civilization. Alright. Black Africans established the two greatest classical civilizations in Southeast Asia, namely Angkor in Cambodia, and Champa in Vietnam. Both civilizations were built by small and black men called the Khmers. The Khmers resembled black pygmies, who were short of stature, dark-skinned, kinky-haired, broad noses with Negro lips. The kingdom of Angkor was established by King Jayavarman from numerous Khmer kingdoms. The residents were sophisticated farmers, advanced engineers, aggressive merchants, and intrepid warriors. They developed a splendid, extensive irrigation system, grandiose hydraulic works which were used for transportation and rice cultivation. The sophisticated agricultural system firmly supported an estimated population of 1 million people that served as a labor force and conscripts for the defense and expansion of the kingdom. Angkor, the capital, was constructed during the reign of King Yasovarman, 889 to 900. Angkor Wat, the crown jewel of Angkor, was built with as much stones as the 4th dynasty pyramid of King Khafre in the Old Kingdom of Egypt. Angkor Wat is referred to as the largest stone monument in the world. Millions of tons of sandstones were used to construct the structure. Its towers rise above 200 feet above the surrounding flatlands. Khmer builders reigned over an empire stretching from the South China Sea to modern Thailand, as far north as the uplands of Laos and as far south as the Malay Peninsula. The Khmer hegemony was at its zenith during the 12th century. Champa was another Southeast Asian power and rival of Angkor. The facial characteristics of the statues at Chim Kam have Africoid features, including full lips and broad noses. The kingdom of Champa on the coast of Southeast Asia in central Vietnam was inhabited by blacks. These Africans migrated to central plains of Vietnam more than 2 millennia ago. Champa's economy was based on agriculture and maritime trade. Rice and forest products were its chief exports from the 4th through 13th century. Chinese dynastic records describe these people as having beautiful black skin, nose turned up, and hair that's frizzy. These religious centers, my son, had more than 70 temples. In this African diaspora of the Far East and Pacific Islands, people of unmixed black African descent are found today in Malay islands of Buru, Jalolo, and Timor. They also inhabit New Guinea, especially the Bismarck Archipelago and northern Solomon Islands. The purest type of black Africans can be found in the Andaman Islands off the coast of Burma. The religious practices mirror those practices in Egypt and Ethiopia. All civilization and religion spread from the former mentioned centers in continental Africa. The essential elements of religion and civilization found in India, Malay Archipelago, Oceania, China, and Indochina, and America were derived from the direct ancestors of today's sub-Saharan Africans who inhabited ancient Egypt, Ethiopia, Northeast Africa, Middle East. Civilization in these domains shared the following Egyptian religious practices: the practice of mummification, the warning of the dead, and its adventures in the underworld, the building of megalithic monuments, the story of the deluge, the divine origin of the kings, the practice of circumcision, tattooing, and ear piercing, the phallic ideas and practices, certain beliefs regarding the heavenly twins, the making of rock-cut temples and stone tools, the making of rock-cut temples and stone tombs, the making of rock-cut temples and stone tombs, the making of rock-cut temples and stone tombs. The black residents of ancient India migrated further east to Burma, Indonesia, China, and Japan, into the Pacific and to the shores of America. They brought the customs and religious practices that originated in ancient Egypt and Ethiopia. The colossal features of the temples of India, Cambodia, China, and America mirror those that originated in Egypt. In addition, the Oriental and the American pyramids are replicas of Egyptian ones. Prehistoric folks carried their cultures and religious beliefs to practically all corners of the world. Here's an image of Champa. God, you can tell this was a damn Negro, man. I remember I emphasized the carving into rock. And there was a connection from America, Africa, Asia, the Pacific Islands, and Europe. There was always a connection between many of those black folks because it was always trade and it was moving about. So they used their technology and they used their smelting of iron and carving to rock. They use that all over the damn planet. You see this in Asia, they did it in Africa, and they did it over in the Grand Canyon region in the Americas. Carve it into rock. You see this. Now that's obviously damn Negro, man. This can't be explained away. And you have these large ass heads, even in Canada, they so damn old, man. Large heads. Along with a small Buddha statue there. This is so damn old. But it's ignored. This is suppressed. Now here we go to Angkor Wat. Notice these temples right here. And right it off, a little bit off, you have this like large body of water, or it's like this man-made section where the water's poured up in it, where this large body of water's at, and you see the reflection of these building structures where there's water at. This is awesome what our brothers and sisters did. A prominent French anthropologist living in the Far East found substantial evidence that unmixed blacks inhabited Indochina and Chinese mainland, as well as a southern island. He also found several classical books and texts that describe the Emperor Ti-Hi during the Tihinu dynasty, 1122 BC to 249 BC, as black and oily skin. A kingdom of diminutive blacks existed in or prior to 122 BC, according to Prince Liu Nan. Blacks were the oldest race of the Far East, including being the first Japanese. The original Japanese and Australian Aborigines share the same religious beliefs as the ancient Egyptians, as well as being members of the black race, the Anu. Alright? Japanese. And I got books on ancient China and ancient Japan. Alright? And here's the images. There's some dude from Africa, and there's an image of Asia right here. And notice the round, like, on the head, dot on the head. Alright, I'm not going to read the rest of that. I'm going to stop there, but my main focus is on this book. When the blacks ruled Greece and Rome. My main purpose is to show you how certain things similar happen around the world. Remember in one of my other videos I talked about, I guess it was East African boats or sailors, as well even for the Americas who sailed over to Asia, and there's images carved into rock. You see those images I just showed you carved into rock there of those obviously black faces of black men. They had giraffes carved into rock. And giraffes, like I said, giraffes come in a certain part of Africa, so people had boats to ship them over there. So they had boats to go travel to India to take that over there. I'm emphasizing this because So-called black people traveled the world. In each region, they had the technology of the maritime trade, of shipbuilding, of building boats, all right, and traveling. I emphasize this because so many people believe that black folks came over here as slaves. Black folks are already over here. Yes, some were brought over here as slaves, but black folks are already over here. We are the Aboriginal people of this planet. All right, that's what I'm trying to connect to, brothers and sisters. But that's why I said not all black people, quote, are African. But there's always a connection because there was constant trade. You may have taken a wife from another land, or you had war. You brought people over as your servant, whatever. But my main point is that I emphasize right there about the carving into rock. That's why I went into that over and over again. They carved into rock. That took special technology. They didn't use no copper tools for that. They had some serious iron type tools, machine tools to carve into that rock. Copper, no. They had some form of iron or some damn steel to do that. And the preciseness that you see there, the preciseness you find with the Olmec She, the preciseness you find with some of the Egyptian pharaoh images. The technology to carve into rock was done globally. That's why I showed you about those historic national parks in America, how that rock was carved into because they had the technology and they was doing it all over the planet. It was being done all over the planet. And you see those little short black people in the Andaman Islands. You see them in the Philippines to this very day. You see all those little short black people still in the various different Asian countries. But you see those black people in the Philippines, and those short black people in the Philippines, and in the Andaman Islands, like I just said, man. And you see the short little Khoisan and their features. You look at them. Those little short diminutive Negroes were the original people on this planet. They're the original Vikings, all right? Because the original Vikings were Negroes. The original Vikings were Negroes. They weren't white. White people not indigenous to anything. All they've done is hijacked and lied about everything. And they continue to do that. But when you start doing your research and start putting together and use common sense, that tell you these people lying. Now, the reason I brought this up is because he just talked about the original people in Asia. Now, the original people in Asia, if they were so-called black, all right, not the paler, quote, mixed Mongolian type, and it talks about how a lot of those Mongolian people invaded and then pushes some of these black people into some of these other islands, going to secluded islands. Doesn't that tell you that if those black people, the original people all of Asia, that they obviously originated all of Africa and they ruled all of Europe, weren't they the original people in the Americas? I showed you the pictures of who the original Hawaiians were and how the original Samoans look like. The people that live in Samoa today are mixed. I mean, there may be some straight black people, but most of them are mixed. But the original Samoans were straight up Negroes that you find on 79th Street in Chicago. I'm emphasizing that because I want you to understand that so-called black people are aboriginal to this planet, but we in America, we're aboriginal to this land, but there's also constant travel. That's why I bring up ships, boat building. They didn't sit situated in one region. They traveled, they explored the world. They want to seek new land and build and spread their belief system globally. This information is in your face, but you have to want it. You're going to have to research it. You're going to have to dig for it. Stop listening to these people who just sit there talking about Booker T. Washington, the black bully. Nobody care about them, man. They have done damage. They're the main reason our people are messed up because they're too busy caring about being accepted by people who can't stand their ass. And all they've done is hijack our history and lied about history. I told you that the original popes were black. All right, starting with Saint Sylvester the First. All right, the original popes were black, probably of Egyptian descent, Greek, Egyptian descent, Greek, Egyptian, whatever. That's where the original popes come from. Those Negroes, and they were the original popes were all black for through a certain period of time. So when someone tell you that you're going to elect the first black pope or you had 3 African popes, you had way more than that, like I said in my last video. I want you to study and look up the first picture of Sylvester I. If you get a true image of him, a true painting image of him, you see a dark brown black man. Not a pale-skinned white person. These people have lied about everything. They just lie. Compulsive liars. Pathological liars. That's all they've done. And you see they want to erase your history. They're doing so many tricks to try to continue to suppress your history. But I tell you before, all you gotta do is do the research. Like I said, the original people of Florida had to be a darker skin because Florida has a very humid heat index. Same thing when you go to those South American countries like Peru. There's no in hell that there's pale-skinned people who originally were there. All you have to do is put it together. You're not descendant of African slaves, but you are descendant of Aboriginal blacks who were already here, who were enslaved. Some of them might have been shipped to the Caribbean or shipped to another part of the United States, whatever. But you are descendant of the original Aboriginal blacks. They were the original ones who were enslaved or prisoners of war. But you see, when you have been indoctrinated and you listen to these individuals who at these universities like Harvard, Cornell, Princeton, Dartmouth, Brown, Yale. When you listen to a lot of those Negroes from those institutions, you get that indoctrinated BS. I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, the information there. You gotta want to seek it. I brought this up because I want to continue to connect the fact that black people ruled the world. So-called black people ruled the world. All right, melanated people ruled the world. We ruled the damn planet. Remember, I said black is the dirt, the soil, and many times the Egyptian pharaoh will paint their image in the color black. Lots of times it has to do with the black, rich, fertile soil. Because light comes from the dirt, the rich dirt, the green grass, the plants, the trees come from the rich dirt. And you see yourself springing up from the dirt. So when you portray your image as the rich black dirt, portray yourself in the highest image of the rich black dirt being burnt by the sun with that burnt black skin. Even though we come in very different skin tones, a very different brown, you do actually have some black people who you can say, who look like the crayon color of black. You do, especially closer to the equator. So we gotta stop saying there's no people who actually has like a black skin complexion, because you do have brothers and sisters like that. All right, I'm saying this now. The information's in your face, but you're gonna have to want it. All right, I beg you, brothers and sisters, put in the time to research. Your information's there. Stop saying you're descendant of African slaves, man, because you're not. You're descendant of the Aboriginal black Indians that were here. I'll say, like I said, the black Europeans, the very different black tribes that are here, the black Europeans, and a lot of some black Asians. I don't know the percentage of that, but it's some of that too, because you can look at, like I said, with the Angkor Wat, and then you can look at some of the images here in America with the Olmec She, and then you can look at some of the pictures over in Egypt, Abu Simbel. There's some similarities to that, man, because the brothers and sisters had a connection and they built globally. You have to understand that. You gotta stop with your tribalistic BS. All right, I'm serious. That was the downfall of the Aboriginal black civilizations here in America and globally. Like I'm hard of some of these foreign blacks, some of the cooning, I don't hate every single one, but there's too many I have issues with because they do too many cooning. We have domestic coons here. We don't need imported coons here, and too many of them coon, and that's why I get on them about that cooning. But the fact is that many of them do not understand, do the research, realize that there's so-called black people globally. Stop telling black Americans that they're descendant of African slaves, man. And then you have these damn museums over in Africa, or talking about trying to build a museum of slavery. Don't insult me, man. My people built the greatest civilization here in Americas. Don't insult me with that. Take the time to study black history globally, please. So-called black history, melanated history, whatever you want to call yourself, I don't care. But the main point is this: we are Aboriginal to all these lands of this planet, and as an Aboriginal black American, this is my land. This is my culture. This is my home. All right, brothers and sisters, I love you, man. Peace.